Hi, guys. Welcome back to Free Failing. I'm Jess K.
Yeah, I'm just T, and today we are interviewing my friend Jasmin Beeney and her business partner, Theresa Krupicka. They are individual couples and professional team coaches that use the Enneagram model in their business, Bridge 9.
Welcome, guys.
Thank
Hey.
you.
Um,
Hi.
we've been talking about having this conversation because Jess and I are both Enneagram freaks. So I've been counting down the days because ever since I discovered the Enneagram, probably 2 years ago, I've number one been falsely self-identifying as a 7, which we'll talk about later. Because after our session, I was crushed to know I've been telling everyone on the wrong number, and I used to love my number. So I have so much to say, and I'm so excited for any listener out there that isn't familiar with the Enneagram or is mildly familiar, because it's so intriguing, this whole process that we've gone through with you all. So thanks
Yeah,
again.
it really is. Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
You want to take a minute and introduce and explain what the Enneagram is and some basic info?
Sure. Well, my name is Jasmin Beeney, and I discovered the Enneagram about 6 years ago. Actually, it was Theresa who brought it to me and said, "Hey, have you heard about this Enneagram thing?" And this was way back in 2019. And I was like, "No." And so I immediately tried to find a test online to figure out what I was, because that's what everyone wants to do. And within the same 24-hour period, I came back with 3 different results.
Okay. So I'm
Yes.
not alone. Mhm.
No. And I was
No,
just reading
no.
them and like, this can't be me. This doesn't sound like me. Like I can see it, but I can't. And so that journey began then. And I've been obsessed. I was obsessed with it a lot more in the past because I just wanted to learn. But now I have grown to feel confident in the knowledge that I have of it. And I'll explain that knowledge in a second. But I'll let Teresa introduce herself first.
Hello, I'm Theresa Krupicka, the one with the difficult last name to say. So 6 years ago, I was the one that said to Jasmine, "Have you ever heard of this thing?" I have always been a person who wanted to understand other people
Hmm.
and also myself. So I've always been kind of obsessed with personality tests, extra Myers-Briggs, who's an extrovert, who's an introvert, any personality tests out there I was investigating and stumbled across Enneagram. I don't even remember how. And I was going through a period in my life where I was starting to go through a lot of changes. So I was investigating like who I am and why I was feeling certain ways. One of my few midlife crises, as I was telling Jess T when we first met. And because of Jasmine's enthusiasm, we started exploring a lot of, what the Enneagram is and how we can use that in our full-time roles, and then establish this business together in Bridge 9 Consulting. So something we're both very passionate about, understanding people and helping people work together better. And so this just lent itself to that
Okay.
passion that we have.
Okay. So yeah, you mentioned it's like a personality test, not similar to Myers-Briggs, very different, but it tells you more about yourself, and then you can use that tool in your personal life, in your employment, in your dating relationships or your marriage, right?
That's a good segue into what is the Enneagram, right?
Yeah, we're
And I
Hmm.
think that what we like to refer to it as is more of a self-awareness model instead of a personality test. Or
Hmm.
even just people say test or assessment. I'm like, that's just literally just breaking or touching the tip of the iceberg, right? It's a self-awareness model that maps out 9 different ways that people tend to see the world, which is very different than just like, oh, I'm a INTJ, or oh, I'm this.
Hmm.
It's like, oh wait,
Yeah.
how does one person see the world, right?
Hmm.
And so it allows people to look through that lens. So it's less about personality and more about what drives us deep down inside. Like, what are our core motivations? What drives us? What are our fears that we're constantly worried about? And various other habits, depending on what type you are. One thing I want everyone to know, though, is that this model does not put you in a box. It really does
Hmm.
show you the box that you might have created for yourself to survive to the point that you are in your life.
Yeah.
And the goal is to look in the mirror and say, okay, this is what I've done to survive at this point. What can I do to get stronger, to build myself up, to not to grow outside of that box, right?
Yeah, I love
Move
that.
beyond
It's
that.
not defining you and putting you in the box. It's helping you get out of the box that might have been created
Exactly.
for you through your
Exactly.
experiences.
Yes.
That's awesome.
And what people don't, and I want people to focus on with the Enneagram is that it really does focus on motivation.
Okay.
Each type has their own unique way of thinking, reacting, and navigating this world based on that one core motivation. There are some motivations that people will say, well, doesn't everyone feel that way? And I'm like, no. Even though people may feel that way, it isn't what drives them every single day, the way that it might drive that specific Enneagram type. And we'll talk more about that as we talk about the types of everybody on the call. The other thing the Enneagram has are survival instincts. And this is our human instinct for survival. It uses this and to help layer more complexity with the tool to give you more in-depth knowledge on like, all right, this may motivate me, but what is my drive for survival in addition to that? And so there's self-preservation. There's 3: self-preservation, one-to-one, and social. And we all
Okay.
have all 3, but we have a dominant, a secondary, and a repressed. And we will talk about that during the podcast as well.
Can you repeat those one
Um,
more time? Your motivations can be
You have 9 motivations, and then you
uh-huh.
have 3 human instinctual drives for survival.
instincts. What are those
Yes.
3?
Social, one-to-one, and self-preservation. Yep. And
Okay.
so, yeah. And so once you figure out what that instinct is and that Enneagram type is, what that is for you, you can actually figure out and sift through things like, all right, why do I avoid confrontation? Or like, why do I always feel like I have to prove myself? Or why do I have to put everyone's needs before my own? And it really does help you understand like, all right, what comes from me versus what comes from maybe my childhood, my culture, my faith. You know, like, all right, let's figure out who I am and why I do what I do. It also helps you find self-compassion. Like, wait, so as we'll talk about my type here in a little bit, but it was like, oh, so that it just helps me understand why I did what I did. And it allows me now to have grace for myself. And it really, I've grown a lot just because of me learning my type. So I've been kinder to myself since I've known my type. But just the one caveat and difference that Theresa and I have always loved about this model is that this isn't something that's just going to give you information that you take and say, oh, okay, cool, that's great that I know that. This is a lifelong journey if you take it. If you learn your Enneagram type and you want to grow outside of that box and you don't want your blind spots to lead you and you want to balance things out with yourself, this tool can help you do that. It's just a lifelong journey.
So what are the Enneagram types then?
So there are 9 types. We'll start with number 1. So the number, and they each have a number and a short description of what they are. So type 1 is called the reformer in some instances. It's also called the perfectionist, depending on what model you're using to describe the type. So type 1s are perfectionists of the Enneagram. They've got a strong sense of right and wrong, and they're always trying to make things better. I also feel like they're very strict rule followers. They're rarely going to go against the grain. But they're also, in their striving to make things better, it could be a system or process or even themselves. So someone that's interested in the Enneagram, wanting to grow and better themselves. But they also have an inner critic. So it can be very loud. They're their biggest critic. So we all have a little monster on our shoulder telling us we're not good enough. Theirs is the loudest one you'll hear. So criticizing a type 1 could be devastating to them because they're already the hardest on themselves. So this makes it hard for them to just chill and let things be. So I always have a lot of empathy for our type 1s just because of that really loud voice they have in their head. And just to note, as we're going through these types, there's no one best type. So Jess K is saying, like, I was devastated because I thought I was this number and now I'm this one. Every type has pros and cons, positives and negatives. So it's not that one type. Now, as type 7, as we talk about that, may sound like, oh, that one sounds so fun. But internally, it may not be. So you have to just consider that every type has positive traits and negative traits, because we're human. We have positive traits and negative traits. So the type 2 is called the helper. They are natural caregivers. They're warm, generous, really tuned into people's needs. I have not met a type 2 that's not highly empathetic. They love to feel needed, and that's kind of their driving motivation. If I'm needed, I'm loved. Sometimes they give so much, they forget their own needs. So they forget what they need to feel fulfilled. And they are classic, let me take care of you, and they totally ignore themselves energy. So if you know a type 2, or if somebody that in your life has identified as a type 2, check in with them, because they aren't taking care of themselves. And they can get that feeling where they're not unappreciated, and that's when their unhealthy traits might come out. So to go along with the theme is, you thought you were one type and finding out you're another. I always tested or assessed between a 9 and a 2, and I aligned really close to a 2. I really wanted to be a helper. And when Jasmin and I took our training for our coaching certification with the company that we work with, for our materials and our assessments, I came back a 9, and I was devastated. I was like, there's no way I'm a 9. I am a 2. But the more I got to know what a 9 was, I definitely saw it. So I'm there with you, Jess K. So
Okay, great. I feel seen and
yeah.
understood. Now I'm made friends with the 9, and now I call
Yeah.
myself the harmony goddess, or if it, so it's fine.
Yes.
We're gonna do it
Yes.
later.
Yes. Type 3s are called the achievers, and there are go-getters. So if you know people that are like workaholics, or just uh, I'm in perimenopause, so I forget words all the time. Competitive is the word I'm looking about.
Girl.
So if you think goals, hustle, achievement, that's what drives these types, type 3s, and they are wired to succeed, and they want to look good doing it. So you might also see that they're very fashionable. They care about their hairstyle. They always want to look good. They're super adaptable and polished, but underneath all that drive, they struggle with the feeling that they're only as good as their last win. So where a helper helps to feel love, an achiever thinks they're only lovable if they continue to win. So that is kind of their negative trait, or their motivation, and why they look to achieve. So type 4s, which Jasmin and I call the unicorn, because of the industry that we work in our full-time jobs, you don't come across type 4s very often. They are called the individualist. And 4s are the deep feelers and creatives. So poets, songwriters, writers, artists, anyone that might be of a creative type of mindset might be a type 4. Again, you don't want to type someone on there just because of their hobbies and their personality. But they want to be authentic and unique and truly understood. So that uniqueness really comes out. Nobody's like me. I'm unique in this way. And they feel things very intensely. So they have very high highs and very low lows. And they often have this sense that something is missing in them. Like, I'm unique and there's something missing, even if they can't quite name what it is. So those type 4s just feel like there's something missing inside of them. And then the last one I'll go through before I pass it over to Jasmin is called the type 5. They're the investigator. So those are your thinkers. They're super observant, curious, and often introverted, and they like to understand how things work. So they're your person that you bring up a topic and they're like, oh, let me research that. So they like to figure out people, systems, ideas. They're your deep divers, maybe hard to get up in and out of the research. They tend to need a lot of personal space, and they're really good at conserving their energy. So sometimes a little too good. Um, there is some theories that type 5s only wake up with so much energy during the day, and once it's depleted, they have no way of re-engaging that, no caffeine, no exercise. And they're very good at compartmentalizing. So type 5s can be at work and leave work. And then you may never know anything about their work or their friends at work, because then they have another thing that they go do, and they can keep things very compartmentalized and not intermingle their lives. So that takes us up through type 5. So I'm going to pass it over to
Yeah.
Jasmin, unless you guys have questions.
No, I think we all know, we can all identify with people or try to put people in a category, like Jess and I have a mutual friend that we were on a beach vacation with recently, and she's definitely a 4, and just poetic and broody and all those things. So we all know people, I think, or we think we know people, but you need the official diagnostic. Anyway, yeah. So that was 1 through 5, and now we need 6
Well, I
through
wanted to
10.
jump in
6 through
too,
9.
and it's
Yeah. So we'll move on to type 6. They're referred to as the loyalist. I love me a type. I love all the types, just so you know. So I'm going to say things that I'm probably say about every type. 6s are the troubleshooters. They're dependable, loyal, and they're always thinking 10 steps ahead. And that's why they make great troubleshooters. Like, all right, what if this happens? All right, what if that happens? I mean, like, taking a vacation with the type 6 is awesome because they've already had 2 or 3 plans in place, and you can just show up, and they probably have taken care of everything if you let them, which is awesome. Because they've got a radar for what could go wrong at all times. Their main motivation is fear of what could go wrong. And they're great at keeping things safe and stable. So they will assess and they will go through all these scenarios because, just like Theresa said, Enneagram 1s have an inner critic and it's the loudest. Well, for Enneagram 6s, they have a committee in their head about, well, what about this? What about this? What about that? And when I tested, I would come back as a 6. I would come back as a 1. I would come back as a 2. I would come back as a 7. So I was all over the place. And I did resonate with the type 6, but that is not my type. So, but because 6s are fear-based, it can feed their anxiety and make them second guess themselves constantly. So, I've worked with Enneagram 6s that are very skeptical of a lot of things unless they can assess themselves. Like, I need to double check these 5 different things before I can agree with you. But we need that in this world, right? There are times when we really need someone to troubleshoot to that extent so that we are safe, so that things go well for many reasons, right? So
I was
we
gonna
need our
say
type
that's the
6s.
opposite of me. So bless those anxiety-ridden angels because I would probably I think my ex-husband was, now that I think of it. So yeah, I feel like it's a good quality. So I appreciate. Yeah.
It is. It is. It is. And one thing I did want to I say before we go to type 7 is one thing Theresa and I are guilty of, and I think most of us are, is that we do feel like we could type other people. But I would strongly advise to not, even though we are guilty of it at times. Because again, 4 or 5 of these Enneagram types could take the same exact action, but it's for 4 or 5 different reasons. So again, it's not prescriptive of behavior. It is really truly like a motivation. So just want to make sure we highlight that. Because we do it sometimes too. And I'm like, dang it, it is so hard not to do that. All
Yeah.
right, we'll
So
move to
you're saying you can't just look at someone's behavior and put them in a category because there's so much underlying behind it with their motivation.
correct.
So the motivation is the biggest part of the Enneagram, would you say?
Yes, it is. Yep. And that is where we start. So when we do our debriefs with our clients, it's a matter of making sure that, all right, this is what the results say. And that motivation is the first point of conversation. And we want to be sure that that resonates with you, because the rest of the system or model does not work unless that resonates. And that's basically the root of all of it. So again, and that's why it's funny, because you'll resonate with behaviors of other types because we're human. all of us have all of these numbers to an extent. We just have a primary motivation that leads us. So yeah, you can't. I mean, you could try, but the probability of being correct is not high. So even with you, Just T, like I kind of thought, but I didn't know enough, and I was just like, I can't. I know you too well to know. I didn't even know my own daughters, and I raised her. So, all right. Next one is type 7, the enthusiast. 7s are all about the good vibes. They just want to feel good. They don't want to feel pain. They don't want to feel discomfort. Everything's positive. Everything is good. They're adventurous, optimistic. They're always up for an adventure, for a trip, for a dinner, for anything. They're just down for whatever. They just really want to do what's fun, what's interesting. That's all the time. They get this infection. They have infectious energy, but sometimes they keep moving to avoid sitting in discomfort or facing the harder stuff. And that's the crux, right? Like that's what Theresa was mentioning earlier. Like 7s sound fun, but like all these types, they all bring this good that we need. But there's always that opposite that we struggle with on the other end of it, right? The ones with the perfectionism, great, we can organize the world, but yet that inner critic is constantly there and we want to perfect everything. The 6s, let me cover every scenario that could happen, but the anxiety eats them up, right? So it's 7s, it's like, oh, I want to have fun, I want to have a good time, but they do it to avoid pain.
Yeah, we'll get into it a little later, but I can already see how this would increase your empathy and grace for yourself and others, especially you guys do this in an executive setting. I'm thinking of a woman, a director of marketing where I work it's always a no. She's always afraid of the worst. She has to overthink. And I'm like, I know we're not supposed to say, oh, that's her number that we were just talking about before, but it's like, even without knowing, it just makes you aware of people's motivation and just feel kind. Cause I think I can be a little like, why don't you just relax? Like, what is the big deal? But it's like, they're built that way. So I think it's just intriguing in that way. But all right.
Yeah,
I'll let
it
you go on.
is. That 100%. I mean, I talk a lot about that with my team coaching at work, um, because the goal is to help the team members understand each other more and have compassion. Like, why doesn't this team member ever talk in calls? Or, why does this team
Yes.
member always have to fight every solution? It's like, what if they
Mm,
are a 6 and you don't even
mm,
know that they're scared of something going
mm.
wrong? Once you learn that, you're like, okay, I'm more welcoming of your questions now.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
yep. All right. I'll move on to type 8, the challenger. 8s are strong, direct, and protective. And I know I just said we shouldn't type people, but I think this is the easiest one to find.
Really? Is this like an alpha male? Do I have alpha male energy?
Say
Like,
that.
okay.
I think it's just Enneagram 8s are no BS. There's no bullshit with them. They are just straight to the
Okay.
point. Don't waste my time. Um, I'm gonna make sure that things happen. I'm gonna be in control. And the thing with 8s is that they don't need to be in control of others. They just don't want people to control them.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yep.
So I will just interject and maybe conflict Jasmine a little bit. 3s can also come off that way, and what they call counter type 6. So 6s, if they are trying to beat that fear, like fight it, they can come off as an 8 as well. Because I had a client, thought she was an 8, she presented as an 8, turns out she was a counter type 6. So, which just means they don't act as a 6. They don't present themselves that way. They present themselves as an 8. So I just want to contradict her a little bit on that. But yes, 8s have very strong personalities.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And I've heard a lot of 8s on podcasts. Just they love that they're an 8. Like there's nothing wrong with them. What's wrong with wanting to be in control? Like that's how direct they are and confident they
They're
are.
easier to spot. They're maybe more of a big personalities. Trying to
They
be
could be.
diplomatic.
They could be. Yeah. They could be. Yeah. But again, even though that tough exterior is there, they really have a huge heart, and that's where the compassion lies with 8s, right? They really do care and love, and they are very protective of their own. Like if you were to have a manager who's an 8, he will protect you. But if you have to work with an 8 manager who has a team and you have an issue with their team, just be ready because they're going to protect their own, you know? So they're great though. Love me some 8s. Like I said, I love all the types. Um, then we'll move
Would
on
you
to type 9.
say,
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, would you say the 8 is like a social, I think I've heard that they're like the social justice type too.
They can be, yes. Yep,
So
because again,
they're,
they're fearless and protective and they want righteousness. It can look very Enneagram 1-ish,
mhm.
um, but they will break rules to protect people. They will fight. They will go and protest. They will join the committee to help fight injustice. They will raise money for things like they really are activists. Yes. Now, type 9 is our last type. They're the peacemaker. They are, and I love me some 9 too. Love me all of them. They're the calm in the storm. They really are. My 9s keep me straight. My friends. I have many friend 9s, okay? I think that God gave me that for a reason because he knew that my crazy brain needed someone to say, it's going to be all right, Jasmine. Like, okay,
You're
thank you.
welcome, Jess. I'm a 9, guys, but like that's why I'm gonna enjoy that. I'm just gonna take all your words in now.
They're very easygoing, very accepting, and they really do see all sides of a situation. I mean, it's funny because with a lot of Enneagram 9s that I've talked to, they'll be, you go through the Enneagram, like, oh, well, I resonate with that. Oh, well, I resonate with that. Oh, well, I resonate with that. Because they really do see all sides. They are the ultimate mediator for things. Like if you want a mediator in a conflict, they hate conflict, just so you know. But if they can help and support and help people see all sides, they're very, very, very good mediators because they want to bring peace. They don't want drama at all. But in that process of them wanting to find that peace and merge with people and lose themselves in that way, they can lose touch with what they want. They don't want conflict, so they're the ones that might have a hard time picking what's to eat for dinner. They'll just let other people choose. They might have an idea for something, but if someone else comes up with an idea, they can be likely to just say, you know what, let's just go with that, just to not create conflict, just to not disagree. And I've seen 9s that have, so it's not to say that they don't have the ability to do that. Because if 9s feel very strongly about something, they will stand up for what they believe in. So, but when they lose touch with themselves, they really do it just to keep the peace within themselves, lose themselves and merge with other people just so that they keep the peace within themselves. So
Yeah.
those are our 9 types.
This is really enlightening because, like we said in the beginning, Jess thought she might have been a 7, but she's really a 9. And I always thought she was a 7 too because I'm a 7, spoiler alert. But, and my motivation is to avoid pain. So when I was listening to you talking about a 9 and how their motivation is to keep peace, that also can seem similar because if you're avoiding, it looks like avoiding pain if you're just like, sure, whatever, I'll just do whatever. But really, it's still a different motivation. If you're
Right.
just wanting to make everybody happy and keep the peace, that's different than actually a fear of,
Right.
is this going to
So
be
a 9
suffrage to me?
and a 9 can merge really easily with whoever they're close to. So as we get a little bit more on how types show up in relationships, that might be why Jess K felt like a 7 to you because she may have been merging into your world and kind of mirroring back your personality. So that is a challenge for 9s is to remain who they are. And it takes a lot of focus and energy for them to decide who they are because without being influenced by the people around them. So
Right.
that's why 9s
And,
will merge with someone else, and that's
and
how they keep the peace.
Can't wait to talk about this in the context of dating because right when you were saying that, Theresa, it's like, yep, I've always called myself the chameleon in relationships where I'll just completely become whatever the guy's into. I've gone skiing, you guys, in like negative 20-degree weather because this guy likes skiing and I was inside dying. I always call it like you're abandoning self. So, our podcast is for divorced women or women in transition. It could be hard breakups or relationship strifes. The reason I think this is intriguing is after a big, big split, most of us are like, I want to do things differently. Like, I don't want to continue the cycle. So I love this in the context of relationships.
I don't even want to get into the things I have done to keep people I was in
You won't
relationships
go down
with.
that path. No,
Jasmin,
thank you. Nope.
Jasmin has lived with me through a couple of those.
Yep. I'll do it
So
again, girl.
I
You don't want to
understand
trump
you,
me,
Jess K.
Theresa?
Yeah.
We have to talk offline then.
We'll have wine later. No.
No, I think actually we should probably, that's a good segue into Theresa. I think if you share what your experience is using the Enneagram in dating, since we're on that topic and you have dated, and then maybe you could advise me on how I could use my Enneagram type, if you're okay with that.
Absolutely. Jasmin, is that good for you too?
Yeah. Theresa was going to say, yes, she's a 9. Come on, man.
Yes. So I was sharing with Jess T when we were first talking about coming onto this podcast that so I've been in that transition. So I became interested in the Enneagram as I was going through the end of my marriage and divorce. And then shortly after that divorce, I started a new relationship that lasted 5 years. And even though I spent some time at the end of my marriage and through the divorce doing kind of that transition and self-discovery and growth, I was kind of in that period of my life and felt like I had fixed the things that I needed to fix going into the next relationship. I did not. And so I have spent this past year-ish really in that self-discovery, exploring a lot of different aspects of who I am, using my Enneagram type, which is a 9, and really understanding not to merge with people, to stand up with myself, to be comfortable with conflict, to have my own interests, and to get out of my comfort zone because as a 9, I love comfort. I'm here in a hoodie. Like, I love being comfortable. I love having my routine. So I recently started dating someone, and I broached that. I had talked to my previous partner. He had taken the assessment, came back a 5. I tried to use it to help us work through things, and he just wasn't interested. And so I didn't utilize it the best way in that relationship. I understood him, like I understood because of his motivation, kind of where he came from, but it wasn't enough for us to work through things. So in this new relationship, I mentioned it to him maybe on the 3rd date and asked him if he would be willing to take this assessment if we felt like we were on a path to exclusivity, which is a thing you have to define now, apparently, when you're dating, if he would be okay taking it. And he said, absolutely. So in his assessment, he came back a 2, which pairing with a 9 is very refreshing. And so we've had some discussions about, his realizations of himself, how I can maybe keep him honest in not self-abandoning, like for a 2, like giving so much to others that you don't give to yourself, and him keeping me honest in not getting too comfortable with things and keeping my own interests and still having a life separate from us. So I've really appreciated these conversations we've had really early in our relationship about how the Enneagram would work for us. And there's still some opportunity to dive deeper, but it gave us both an opportunity to just grow differently than we had.
Yeah,
No,
it sounds like not free therapy, but like, just something preliminary to start introducing and discussing. So I'm I'm a 7. Um, but then there was a lot of, so you guys already described my core motivation is to avoid pain, and that is to the T. Even avoiding doctors and doctors' visits, which was one of our one of our podcast episodes. Like, I haven't been to certain very important doctors in years and years and years because I avoid just the thoughts of something could be wrong or pain or anything like that. But and I like to have fun and events and say yes to everything, and I avoid my priorities, which um coincidentally causes more backlag of things that are not done that cause pain. So um the biggest thing that stood out to me about my test, which maybe was some of the stressors. Can you talk more about that portion of the testing? Like, I was high in my environmental stressors or
I'm you lagged there for a second, but can you repeat your question?
um one thing that stood out to me, because I've learned a lot about the Enneagram types and my type, but with the testing that you guys did with us, um,
Mm-hmm.
I learned some new things about stressors in my life, how you were able to identify different stressors. And I also agreed, but it was very validating to see that my environmental stressors were really high and my relational stressors were like medium and my work stressors were very low, which is exactly what I say to people all the time. I don't know if I want to be in this house anymore. I feel a lot of stress here. I have stress with kids and ex and etc. But at work, it's like it's my happy place. So I was so validating in getting that info back as well. But I don't know. Can you just speak about the stressors and how people can use that information to help them with maybe not even dating, but post-divorce, like, how to pull yourself back together knowing those things.
Okay. So I'll start a little bit, and then Jasmin, if you want to jump in on that. I the strain profile that comes with the assessment that we do through the company we work with, which is IEQ 9. That's where our certification for coaching came from, and that's the assessment profiles we use. Indicates at a time that you take the assessment kind of where your strains are. So it will highlight for you your overall strain level and what areas that strain might be. So as you were saying, Jess T, your overall strain came back high and you had indicators like in your physical and happiness and psychological strain, which you've identified here, right? And some medium stressors in your environment and interpersonal, but your vocational was like low. So you're very happy there. What I believe the assessment then can highlight for you is where your stress behaviors might be coming out. So every type has ways we act when we're stressed, and that may mimic another type. And Jasmin has this way better memorized than I do on the lines when we go to stress and health. So you might be pulling on the line from your 7 to, is it 1, Jasmin, they go in stress?
Yep.
Okay. So you might become more of a perfectionist. You might show those behaviors that pull from a 1 when they aren't in a healthy place. So, and when we talk about health of your type, that means you have done some growing. You are aware of your actions, your understanding of why you do it. When you're unhealthy, you just react and without any understanding. So when you're stressed, you may lean into the 1, which could be good and bad. So 1s may keep you more organized. You might be a little bit more apt to follow rules. Um, so you're reading into that stress. It might also highlight some of the less healthy aspects of your 7, which means you're going to be a little bit more flighty. You're going to be trying to do things to dull your dissatisfaction with life. So you won't be doing things in your sevenness, as we might say, that would benefit up, like in your growth. So as a 7, you're enthusiastic, you're visionary, but you might just do things to distract yourself because
Yeah,
you don't want to
this
deal with the pain.
yeah, this is so interesting because I'm actually going through something very stressful right now in my life, like very stressful. And I do find myself all of a sudden, I'm hyper aware of any mistake I could make, any paperwork that's not in, and it's more of a, but it doesn't feel good. It's not like I all of a sudden feel like a good one. I feel like a very anxious, stressed out, hard on myself, must be perfect type one.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, I have this very extreme other side that's like maybe my 7, where I'm kind of like, whatever. I'm gonna make the most. I'm gonna have fun. I'll figure it out. I'm gonna go distract myself, like you said. And then I think you guys said that there's a part of me that wings 8 or something. Like I go to 8, and I also feel that in myself right now in a very stressful event where I'm feeling a lot of stubbornness, and like you're not gonna tell me, or you'll find out the heart, like I feel that too, and that really is creating a disaster ball of identity. So I don't know, but and then try to show up to a date with all of that, or even think of a partner in your life. That's so it's a blessing to understand it, but how do we use it, the tool?
So I'll start, and Jasmine, I want you to jump in because I know I've had a lot of voice time here. I would, as a friend or coach that knows that, I might say if you're dating someone, if you're like first, second date and you're feeling this way, you may want to cancel it, right? So you're not going to show up as yourself and it may not go well because you're like this ball of whatever. If you're in a partnership, that's where I feel like knowing and sharing with someone that you're close to, like how I react when I'm stressed. This is what behaviors you may see. They can then have empathy for you if they're a good person and say, "Hey, Jess, I notice you are really stressed." And they're going to act in their type, but I think it gives you a conversation piece here, right? Communication. I notice you're stressed. I notice all these symptoms of this stress. Like, how do we work through that? Or you would have the opportunity, because of your awareness, to say, "Hey, partner, you may see these behaviors in me because I am going through something. And I just want to make you aware it's not you, it's me. And I'm not expecting you to solve my problems or fix this. I have to do it." So those are just a few scenarios, but I'll let Jasmine jump
Yeah,
in here
no,
too.
that's great because you're saying at least I could communicate what I know of myself. It's not like I can necessarily manipulate myself, but I could at least communicate that. But yeah, so
Mhm.
Jess K and Jazz,
Yeah, we'll go to
what's
Jess K here too in a second. I just wanted to say about you, Jess T. I've known Jess T since high school. Everybody listening on the call, and you know, there have been many times where I've been there for Jess in that despair and stress. Um, and the one thing I noticed is exactly what you said, Jess, is the needing to know what to do, what is right. You get very judgmental about yourself. It's like your inner critic comes up out of nowhere. So, which is again very one-ish. So, in the dating world, if there's that much going on, I know it's easy to just want to go escape. But what Theresa mentioned, healthy to unhealthy levels of your type would be a place to start. How can you get yourself to a healthy level as a 7? And a person can't do that for you. But to her point, if you do have someone and you can have that conversation, the Enneagram isn't a system to fix everything, but it is a place to start a conversation. Yeah.
And just I wanted to jump in. I think for the sake of time, because I do want to talk about the Enneagram, how it could be used in marriage and to build
Yes.
stronger marriages. And because that is the goal for a lot of, I hope to get remarried someday. So instead of talking about my sign and the dating life, I did just want to jump in and reconfirm how helpful I found the assessment to be. So for the sake of our listeners and viewers, Jess and I actually had an official coaching session with Theresa and Jasmin. And I was just floored. Like, you get a packet, and it's not only this is why you do things, this is how you are, it's strategies, it's behaviors, coping mechanisms, like tangible bullet lists, which I just appreciate. So I circled ones that I want to work on. It's almost like a plan. Like, here's a plan for a way forward, and you can take it or leave it, like however amount of energy or investment you have in life. So it's like I circled and highlighted mine, like, okay, I'm just gonna keep it on my my bedside, and when I and revisit it. Like, I was really, really impressed with just the usefulness of it, and the relevancy to like all areas of life too. Like, I notice a lot of my weaknesses show up in my work life. So it's not just for romance. But then, if it's okay, Jasmin, if you think if we have enough time, you shared a little bit with me when you and I went through my assessment about how you use this in your marriage. And I thought it was intriguing, and I was motivated, especially for someone who's been in a hard marriage. I'm like, okay, this is just one more thing. When I'm in the marriage that's going to work, like, yeah, add that, add that. So do you mind filling us in a little on your experience, particularly, if that's okay?
So we'll talk about you, Jessica, after, but yes, I don't mind. Um, so I got married. It's going to be 10 years ago, and this coming January, which I still can't believe. So I was well in my marriage when I learned about the Enneagram, and I didn't understand my husband. Like, I loved him. I knew he was a good person. I knew I could trust him. I knew he was loyal. I knew he was hardworking, like all those things you want. And he's a man of faith. Like, he's good to my kid. He's a good person. But I didn't understand why he would do things. Like, he would mow the lawn, even though we all agreed that's what he would do. And he'd be like, let me show you what I did. And I'm just like, okay, I did 10 things, and I don't walk you around showing you what I did. But again, I just didn't understand, right? I'm just like, why do you need me to go see everything that you did? And it could be anything. I mean, I'm not even kidding. He could be like, I cleaned the counters.
I just gonna unmute because I'm laughing so hard. It's like, just I'm cringing. It's like,
Yes, yes,
yes, man, you took
yes,
the
yes,
gutter, you
yes.
cleared the gutters, but
Right,
yeah.
right. And you hear these stereotypes of men wanting to feel like, look at everything that I did, right? To feel validated. And so at first I'm like, if that's what this is about, that's not my life. Okay, bro? Because that's not how I roll. However, for the sake of helping our marriage, because this is going to drive me crazy if this behavior continues, I need to know what your type is. And so when Theresa and I took the certification course, that's where we learned about the option of building a couples report. And so when I learned that, I was like, oh, honey. And now, mind you, my husband did not want to talk about his type. He did not want to look at it. He did not want to talk about it. Nothing. And you'll learn why in a second. And I said, you have to take the assessment now because I have to do the couples report, because how can I help coach other people if I haven't gone through it myself? And as an
Gotta do
Enneagram
it.
1, I need to be prepared.
Well played, Jasmine.
Right. So he took the assessment and he came back as a 1-to-1 3. And what did we say the threes were? The competitive achievers. I have listened to podcasts and I laugh because they're the kinds of people that will slide in their resume about themselves just in casual conversation to show you how great they are.
Yep.
And again, but I didn't realize that he literally found his worth in that. That was just unconceivable to me, because that's not the way that I am. But at least it helped me understand, like, okay, so you're not just a dude that just wants to be patted on the back. Like, you literally need to feel like you did something well, and so that you can feel that you're worthy of anything. And I've seen it where if something is not valued or appreciated, if he wanted you to appreciate it, he gets really sad or upset. Or I've seen it happen
Mm.
at work. He'll tell me stories and I'll have to talk him off the ledge now. But and he had to learn about me. Now I know why you need to organize everything or why you always have these ideas to make some things better. And I'm like, because that's just how I see the world. So we did the couples report. And again, I think him seeing the data and doing the report makes him feel like he's not succeeding because there's good and bad in the report. So I
Yeah.
don't
Oh,
think he
wow. Even
enjoys
that.
doing it. Yes,
Yeah.
right. So he's willing to have conversations with me at times about it. But he at least is willing to understand me, and I'll take it.
Yeah.
Take
Yeah.
it, right?
It's happened, but
And
now we
so,
know why. Yeah.
yeah. And so, if you really don't understand your partner, um, it could be a place to start. I mean, again, even though I'm a coach, even though I use this tool for myself for my journey, like I still have to leave him up to his own vices to figure himself out, to grow on his own when he's ready, and to not expect more than that because it's his journey to have, not mine. So I sit here and support. So that's how I've used it in marriage.
Yeah. And I would say just even knowing that my partner has taken the test, Jasmin and I are natural coaches. So when we're in relationship or even friendships, any kind of relationship, we naturally are curious in that coaching stand. So my partner may be talking to me about something and I, knowing his type, can, come up with some questions for him to think about that may change his perspective. So we have an advantage there, but I also think just knowing more about your partner is a wealth of knowledge. Like that's why
It is.
when people are in couples counseling, like there's a whole lot of discovery about who you are and then who they are. So this is just another way to understand who your partner is.
To me, it's so intriguing and so mind-blowing. It's like almost like seeing the world through a different perspective. I actually started panicking thinking about past relationships like, "Oh, man, he was probably just motivated from that. Like, I guess I should have been nicer about," like you can almost like work backwards. It's like that good. But only way forward here, that's what we always talk about. And I even
Yeah.
like as you were saying that, Jasmine, about your husband needing like accolades or, like affirmation of things he's doing right. I'm like thinking about my sons. I have like teenage sons, older sons. I'm like, do I do that enough? And just thinking even what they are kind of makes me want to have my kids take the test, honestly, because it's a parenting relationship is probably more important than
Mhm.
anything. So it's just so intriguing.
So
Thank you for
Jess,
sharing.
Jess K, I am curious. Now we did our debrief, and how do you plan on using this in your dating world?
It's more for me. I feel like I've always said I'm a little like emotionally handicapped, I think, like a late bloomer in the emotional development stage of my life. So like, okay, like I think I should have had these revelations and worked through some things like in maybe early 30s, not like mid late 40s. So for me it's almost less about understanding them and more me because of what we just talked about, Theresa and I think I've always been the one to just act out of a place of not being healed and not knowing how to deal with all my emotions and insecurities. So, because this isn't meant to be a replacement for therapy, which I'm doing too. Well, for me, it's like, okay, I'm doing the healing work, this joyous first year after divorce. So fun, crying every morning, healing, doing my therapy books. But now also, it's almost like a counterpart, like coming alongside my new wholeness and now just being really aware, and I am self-aware naturally, but I love this because it's like, I don't want to look anything like how I look now in 20 years, like emotionally. And thank God, can't we all look back to our early 20s, early 30s? I wasn't even the same person in my first marriage. Thank God. So I just feel like this catapulted. I want to get there. We want to be the best versions of ourselves quicker. And I think after divorce, you almost feel like there's a loss of time. All those years and like the wrong or a failed relationship. It's like, okay, I want to make up for lost time. So that's how I'm going to use it.
We could talk about this for like
Yeah.
hours. So one thing you said, Jess K, is like I'm in my 50s. So
You
I
don't look it,
often
girl.
I
Right?
could always say
What
like,
kind of lighting?
well,
Okay. Yeah.
I've had like at least 2 or 3 midlife crises since Jasmin has met me. So which is what 8 years ago now, something 7
Yeah,
years
something
ago.
like that. Yeah.
But so I don't think you're ever at an age where you can't continue. And I almost think figuring out who you are is easier when you're older
Mm,
because
yes.
this is just my perspective, no scientific theory behind this.
Mm-hmm.
I think once you hit mid-age, like in for a woman, you hear a lot about menopause and perimenopause now because all us Gen Xers are hitting that. We're way more vocal about it than previous generations. Um, I'm more apt to call myself on my own BS, right?
Mm,
Like,
yes.
and I also think dating at this age, I have found, because I did also a lot of healing. I feel like I lived the same year you did, Jess K. So, um, so many tears. But I, my BS filter on dating apps was so
Mm. Oh,
thick. Like I, in the
yes.
whole year I was on dating apps, I went on 2 dates.
Jess and I
I
talk
met
about this all the time.
I met
Yes.
my partner randomly in person. I felt like I like knew myself so much at that point and I could see through all of the stuff almost too much. Like I wasn't
Mm.
giving anybody any
Mm-hmm.
leeway.
Yeah. I think we're there.
So
We're
you
there
have to be
now.
careful of that
It's
too.
like, I
Like,
didn't make it this far to settle for these shenanigans. Like, this
right.
soul has been war torn. You got,
And
yeah.
I think as nines too, like I was getting very comfortable being alone. Like I didn't have to worry about anybody else but my kids. I could come home and watch TV. Like I could
That's
go
where I'm
see my
at.
friends and spend time with them. So like for someone to pull me out of that and want to disrupt my schedule had to
Mm.
be pretty special because I
Mm.
wasn't going to
Yeah.
just give all that up. And my life has been chaos since we started dating in a good way. This
In
it's
a
just
good
been
way,
like,
right?
I
There's some,
can't find any like sustainability here. Life has to slow down.
gosh,
And
I
Just
feel that.
T would be like, bring it on. I want the
Yeah, she would. She'd be like, life is great. I got 800 things
Yes,
going
I have
on. This
so
is
much
good.
on my bucket list. Can we get started on that?
Right, right, right.
So
Well, thank you
that's
so
what
much.
I have to add about that.
Yeah,
So
it's inspiring. I'm inspired by that because I have never been able to be alone, and I for the first time in my life feel secure without a man in
mm,
my life. So that
yep.
Yay.
alone is mind blowing. I would have never believed it.
Love that for you, girl.
So, ladies, where can people find you? Can you just, for listeners and viewers who are curious, like, can they sign up for coaching? What's the best steps?
Well, you can find us at bridge9consulting.com. You can find us on LinkedIn. Um, what we offer individual, couple, and professional executive coaching. We basically meet with people. First, we have one free consultation, and we agree on a 3 or 4 session start package with people
Okay.
or teams, and on that first meeting we talk through the things that you want to get out of this, so that we can
Mm.
align the conversations after you take the assessment with those goals that we've set.
Hmm.
And I would, for individual coaching specifically, I would say it aligns very well with life coaching.
Okay.
And with couples coaching, it's again just coaching almost teamish because again, it's more than one person. And then with professional coaching with teams and executive teams, that's a more in-depth process, which we will talk about if you're interested. But yeah, find us on
Awesome.
bridge9consulting.com. We have a
We'll
form.
put
You
all
can
the
fill it
links in
in.
our show notes. And you know what? I just have to say, I love that you guys did this together, all around the same age, 8 years ago, through changing seasons of life. It's just I'm so inspired because this is like, it is life changing. Like, it must
Yeah.
feel
Yes.
really rewarding to be involved in something like this that has such an impact with people's lives. So even
And
that's just
yeah.
cool. The way you came about it.
And she's in Nebraska and I'm in Connecticut. We still make it work.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, women, women.
Yeah.
We always figure it out.
She could be
That's
the North
right.
Pole. I mean,
Literally.
you guys would
Yeah.
make it work.
Whatever that lady.
I just wanted to thank you guys for
Yes, thank
inviting
you
us
for
on.
having
This
us.
has been fun.
So fun.
The whole concept of women coming into this time in their life, and how to grow and make their life different going forward, whatever that means for them, is a topic close to my own heart. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
That's